Hey, what it do? What it do? What it do? It's your boy Q. And there ain't nothing left to do but to go ahead and get down and do what it do. Man, I'm excited. First episode of On Q Sports here on YouTube. So do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. When we're done, of course, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Maybe give me some ideas of some topics you want to hear in the upcoming days. But what I'm excited to get down and talk about here, guys, I wanted to do it last week. Unfortunately, I had to rush out of town, so I'm glad that nothing really new has developed, other than the fact that Jerry Jones has said that he is now preparing to play the first couple games without Zeke. I want to talk about these contract disputes, particularly the one that we've got going on down in Dallas, okay? And the reason I want to talk about it is, of course, we do have both Melvin Gordon and Ezekiel Elliot currently saying that they are going to sit out at least a portion of the season until they get new contracts figured out. This is just a year removed after we had Le'Veon Bell sit out the entire season, forfeiting $14.5 million of guaranteed money. Reason I want to talk about it, really, I feel like there's a lot of things that I've been listening to, different people talking about it, reading all through social media. I feel like a lot of people got a lot of things twisted. So I kind of want to give you guys my view. I want to let you guys kind of get a different perspective on some things. So I really feel like over the course of really the last decade or so, we've seen the running back position really start to become devalued across the league. Mostly because teams are starting to shy away from that workhorse running back that we saw there for a little while, the 2,000, 1,800, 1,600 yard running backs. We're not really seeing that here today. What we're seeing is teams going with two and sometimes three options in the backfield and kind of really sticking more with that. But that is exactly why. When you have guys like Gurley, Zeke, Bell, Saquon, and even McCaffrey, we're seeing them picking up more popularity. And I'm sure we'll even add Chubb in there, by the way, from Cleveland once the season's over, because they're going to make the playoffs and maybe even win the division. You hear that here first. But these guys, they contribute so much more to the offense than, these other teams where you're seeing two and three people in the back. That's why they deserve to be paid. And right now, there's all this talks of, does he deserve to get Gurley money? If not, does he at least deserve to get paid second to Gurley? I want to kind of put some things into perspective because the big talk has been between Zeke and Gurley, right? So let's think about this for a second. It's easy to look at last year and go, well, Gurley is more valuable because some of these numbers. So Zeke should get paid second money, especially when you look at last year, right? Gurley did rush for a little bit less than Zeke. He acquired 1,251 rushing yards. He did get 17 touchdowns, though, rushing. An additional 4 touchdowns rushing and 580 yards. Whereas Zeke did outrush him, 1,434 rushing yards. Altogether, he only got into the end zone 9 times, compared to Gurley's 21, right? Now, he did amass 2,001 yards compared to Gurley's 1,831. But I kind of wanted to break things down because I know it's very easy to say, well, Todd Gurley's more effective with his rushes. Look at how many more points he's scoring. But is it the individual player, Todd Gurley, that's more effective? Or is it the LA Ram offense? Let's think about some things. Last year, the two offenses, the Cowboys finished 22nd in the league, averaging 21 points per game. Whereas the Rams, on the other hand, finished second in the league. Over the course of the year, the Rams put the ball into the end zone 55 times compared to the Cowboys doing it just 35. So we're seeing some differences as far as touchdowns, but remember, Zeke did outgain Gurley last year. So what does that difference in offense translate to yards? Well, last year, the Dallas Cowboys had 1,022 plays over which they amassed 5,501 total yards, okay? 5,501 total yards. Now, if LA has such a higher powered offense and they're scoring so much more, they have to be running more plays, right? LA ran 38 more plays. LA only ran 1,060 plays and amassed over an extra 1,000 yards. They got 6,738 yards over those plays. Now, remember the running back's production, though, because Zeke did outproduce Gurley, right? So Zeke is accountable for 36.3% of the total offense from the Cowboys, whereas Todd Gurley is only responsible for 27.2%. But I know, Todd Gurley scored more. He's more effective with the ball, right? So let's talk about the red zone. Because anyone who watches the NFL knows over the course of a season, a team's majority of their touchdowns is going to come from within the red zone, right? So over the course of the season, the Dallas Cowboys visit the red zone 50 times. They actually had a decent conversion as far as touchdowns wise. They converted on almost 50% of them. They scored 24 touchdowns in those visits. But guys, remember how I said the LA Rams only ran an additional 38 plays over the course of this season? They visited the red zone an extra 30 times. So is Todd Gurley more effective, or are the LA Rams more effective? Over the course of the season, LA visited the red zone 80 times. They did convert at a higher percentage, almost 58%. They scored 46 touchdowns. But I think that's important to remember. Over the course of the season, the Dallas Cowboys only scored 35 times. Meanwhile, the LA Rams scored 46 times just within the red zone. But some other considerations for the offense, because of course, Todd Gurley is able to still be very effective while contributing less percentage because he does have other pieces around him in the offense, right? Out in LA, you've got Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks. They're both 1,200-yard receiving guys last year. Gurley was third with 580, but right behind him, you did have Cooper Kupp. So you've got a solid receiving core. Whereas in Dallas, well, you didn't have a 1,000-yard receiver last year. Amari was a 1,000-yard receiver, but he only got 725 of those over the course of the season there in Dallas because he was there for 9 games. Remember, he was acquired in a trade. Cole Beasley put up 672, and Zeke was also third with his 567. Oh, and one thing that we can say at least about Zeke is that he had the highest yards per carry and yards per game on his team, whereas we cannot say the same about Todd Gurley. Now, look, I understand C.J. Anderson, smaller sample size, but with the same offense, the same guys, he was honestly a considerably bit more effective and more efficient if you look at the numbers. But we're in this situation where it seems like the two players kind of mirror each other, and it makes sense, right? Gurley's in his 4th year, Zeke's in his 3rd year. They both got their 5th-year extension picked up by their teams because they're first-round draft picks. Now, what we saw last year was, come July, though, Todd Gurley got this record contract, record guaranteed money, which is the big thing these NFL players are looking for nowadays. The league's dangerous, man. You're playing a very brutal sport. At any point, your career can be taken just like that. And these running backs, like I said, I mean, Zeke's getting 36.3% of his offense's yards. He's taking hits, right? So last year, we saw Gurley got this record contract. Now let's talk about the contract for a minute. 4 years, $60 million. $60 million, not really like the biggest number as far as like when you talk about contracts in the NFL, but the big thing for the running back position was the $45 million guaranteed. $20 million signing bonus. What these running backs are looking for is the guaranteed money and the long-term money, right? You might remember last year, the big thing with Le'Veon Bell, even though he was guaranteed $14.5 million with his guaranteed tag on his franchise tag, right? He wanted the long-term deal because the problem is these running backs don't last long. The life expectancy isn't long. So when you get to a contract point at 25, 26 versus like 24, 25, you're going to have these differences. So we talked about this year, but again, let's remember Todd Gurley got this record deal before his best season, which was last year, right? And also let's not forget that towards the end of last season, we saw Todd Gurley having some problems with his health. The arthritis in the knee, right? If they had not given him the contract last year, you think they're giving him a guaranteed contract knowing he's got arthritis in his knees right now? Or do you think they're making him at least play 1 more year? If not, putting a franchise year on him come year 6 and then giving him a contract, right? Can we be real for a second? So let's look at the 3 seasons that Todd Gurley had before this record contract, because that's where we're at now with Zeke. So the 3 years before this contract, Todd Gurley played 44 games. He started 43 of those. Over those games, he amassed 3,296 rushing yards and 29 rushing touchdowns. He contributed an extra 1,303 receiving yards and an additional 6 receiving touchdowns. So altogether, basically 4,600 yards. Really not bad. Really pretty good numbers if you think about total production, right? 35 touchdowns. Zeke, though, has only played in 40 games. Started all 40, but still he only played in 40 games. 4,048 rushing yards. Just on the rushing side, 28 rushing touchdowns. So similar as far as touchdowns-wise with Gurley. A little bit less than the receiving yards, although he did outproduce him in the running numbers. So overall, he contributed about an extra 650 yards than what Gurley has. Same rushing touchdown. So why are we saying that he should be getting paid a couple million less? You see what I'm saying? There's so many things that we don't look into perspective because we just simply look at this number. We don't think about the teams and the offenses that they play for. Now, I mentioned Le'Veon Bell and even the Gurley thing, right? Because, again, if Gurley does not sign that contract last year, and he didn't even get hurt, he just starts having these arthritic problems in his knees. They're not giving him that record contract this year. They're going to at least wait one more year if they don't franchise him another one. And I've just shown you the numbers. Zeke is more valuable to the Cowboys than Gurley is to the Rams. So why are they going to give him that number? Again, it's guaranteed dollars. Now, Le'Veon Bell did not have a 5th year on his contract. Remember, he wasn't a first-round draft pick, right? So he only had his 4 years. But when the Steelers gave him the franchise tag 2 years ago for the first time, they did guarantee him $12.5 million. That's not the money that Zeke's seeing right now, right? So what kind of production did he get to get a guaranteed $12.5 million over 4 years, 4,045 rushing yards? Basically doing the same thing. He did acquire more receiving yards, but again, he at least got the guaranteed money. That's all Zeke's looking for. And then you have this whole other thing with the Dallas Cowboys right now where Dak's contract's up after this year. Amari's contract's up after this year. Zeke has the most leverage that he will in the next 2 to, let's say, 3 or 4 years, depending on if they franchise tag him like the Bell situation out in Steeler country, right? He will not have as much leverage as he does right now. And they should pay that man. There's a contract dispute with Dak wanting $40 million and you're discussing it, but you're not going to discuss pay for Zeke? Come on, man. We're not going to have another Le'Veon Bell situation. We shouldn't anyways in Dallas. Jerry Jones, pay that man. But what's going to be interesting to see is not just how the Dallas Cowboys do over these next couple weeks without Zeke if they play with him. But what do you think happens if Le'Veon Bell comes out with fresh legs? Remember, he didn't play a whole season. He's still coming out to a new team, but if he comes out with fresh legs and just absolutely at the peak of his game that he's ever been at after a year off, in my eyes, that just gives Zeke more leverage. But guys, thanks so much for checking out the first video here on YouTube. Again, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Should Zeke go ahead and suit up? Should he get paid what he's paying? Does he deserve to get paid more? Also, let me know some things that you want me to discuss here in the upcoming days. It's your boy Q, signing out.